All right, so welcome back to the archives. In this one, I'm going to talk with a section on same-sex abuse because, again, for the most part, this is talking about heterosexual couples, right? Relationships between men, cis women. This one's going to talk about, uh, although most abusers are male and most abused partners are female, the reasons for this loop-sided picture are social, not biological. And so when women sometimes abuse their lesbian partners and men may be abused by their gay partners, right? The thinking that drives this behavior of lesbian and gay male abusers largely follows the patterns we've been examining. And so while it is true that some justification is used by heterosexual male abusers are not available to the gay or lesbian abuser, such as like, I have the right to rule over you because I'm the man and you're the woman, right? It doesn't really work in same sex relationships. Uh, the power dynamic is still prevalent. What's happening is still a power dynamic, right? So in this case, let's say we're looking at two lesbians, she won't necessarily be able to use this sexual relationships or expectations based on cultural or religious rules as easily as a straight man, right? She may not have the social power exchange or the power advantages of a man, right? If she's with another woman, for instance, but there's still a power dynamic that's at play. And so the same sex abuser compensates for these gaps in several ways. And so basically, she may have an even deeper conviction than the straight man that she couldn't possibly be abusive, right? So this is where it gets really complicated. Remember Mr. Sensitive, right? I am not like those macho men. I am not an abuser. I didn't physically hit you. Remember the water torturer? I'm just calm. I didn't yell at you. There's no way I could be an abuser. This is similar in same-sex relationships, right? I'm a girl. I'm just a girl. I'm not abusing you, right? Just because I'm masked doesn't mean I'm abusing you. Just because I'm femme doesn't mean I'm abusing you. I couldn't possibly be an abuser. So that does show up, right? She may sound so sure of herself on this point that she is able to convince her abuse partner that what is happening is just normal part of relationship conflict. She uses her partner's homosexuality against her, so sometimes they'll threaten to like out if you're not out at your job. Maybe she'll threaten to like out you at your job, for instance, or with your family. She knows that like you're likely not going to call the police because the police don't necessarily treat queer people the best, right? You think the police or the courts are going to help you when they know you're a lesbian, that kind of a thing, right? The police are just going to laugh at you um, when you tell them that you're afraid. A gay man, for instance, might say that to their partner, right? So these are some of the dynamics. It's also important that in the United States, there are some states where an abused person cannot obtain a restraining order to keep the abuser away if the person is the same sex. So that's also there. The court and the legal system doesn't make it easy. The same sex abuser may get even more mileage out of playing the victim, right? Than like a straight man. So like, oh, woe is me. Again, I definitely do that, right? You just lament and like you're always lamenting, ruminating on the negatives, on the negatives, on the negatives. Which again is part of the healing process for some people, right? Especially if you're coming out of abuse yourself and if it is justified. But often it could be used again to manipulate people. The result is that same-sex abusers can often convince people around her and sometimes her own partner that she is the one who's being abused, right? So when a lesbian or gay man goes to an agency to ask for help, sometimes the service providers will believe that the abuser is the victim, and the victim is the abuser. And so I've worked with folks in different settings where a lesbian, for instance, somebody I was in an abusive relationship, right? And she would talk about that, like she's making me feel like I'm the abuser, and then but like, yeah, I screamed at her, but it was because of, right? And so like you see that there is this like kind of chaos. There's just not a lot of clarity. Am I the bad guy? And you see that in straight dynamics as well too, right? But the man will make the the narcissistic relationships, for instance, the narcissist will make their victim feel like they are the narcissist, and it's like this crazy making thing that happens. Same thing with same-sex relationships, and so the abuser can sometimes get their wider community to be silent about abuse because everybody's already struggling with negative social images of homosexuality, right? We don't want to talk about this because it's gonna make lesbians and gay people look bad. It's gonna make us right. This idea that like lesbians are just as abusive. We don't want to perpetuate this stereotype. So like, let's just everybody keep quiet about it. Let's not talk about it, right? We don't want to make the community look bad, and so everybody just stays in silence. So ultimately, the thinking and actions of lesbian and gay male abusers are more similar than different than those of other abusers, right? So it's just basically it's a mentality, it's the entitlement, is we want to control our partners. Um, we always have the upper hand. There's a power imbalance, the power favors us. Um, in the binary, we need to always make sure that we are the upper part. So that's basically it for some of the same sex relationships. So the next chapter talks about like abuse and sex and how men will either be really, really, really good in bed as an abuser. That would make me think of again. I just finished watching Love Is Blind, the latest episodes of Love Is Blind. And remember, not Nick, Joe. I think it was Joe. Joe and was it Madison? Where he thought that she was too fat, right? Like she's just like, I date thinner girls than you, and but you hear her talk and she's like, we had great sex, right? He doesn't physically like her. He didn't like. I don't think he liked her at all. But you can see that like they still have great sex, and they talk about it here, right? Where an abuser will treat you terrible. But again, it's not about you. It's about him. It makes him feel good. He needs to make sure that like, yeah, you're a bigger girl. I gotta let you know that I can still, my dick is still big, right? I could still lay it down. Um, it's about me, right? So it's more of an ego boost for them than it is about actually pleasing you, right? So that was another thing. It talked about down low men as well too here. How some men will date women as like a window dressing is what the author calls it, right? To make people think that like they are straight when they in fact want other men and desire other men, but they can't come out in that same way to do that. They talked about this. They talked about how some men don't like sex with their partners, maybe because they're, for either using or abusing some sort of a drug that limits their libido. Maybe they're on antidepressants that limits their libido. Maybe they have um, ED, erectile difficulties, right? All of those kind of dynamics. Maybe they're out already having sex with so many women that by the time he comes home, he's tired, so he's not having as much sex with you because he's already getting sex from somebody else. So these are the types of dynamics when it comes to sex, right? Basically, it's all for him. It's sex is to primarily meet his own needs. If he's reaching orgasm, he's usually reaching it first. He wants you to think that he's a great lover so you can tell everybody that he's the best that you've ever had. It's an ego boost, right? Everything refers back to him. Usually they don't have a lot of heart to heart connections, and so sex is where they feel like some sort of a connection with you. But that's not actually real intimacy, right? They lack genuine intimacy, but they elevate sex to the highest plane as a way to kind of feel some sort of connection with you. So they had this idea, some of them, that like she owes you sex, and so you hear it, right? Especially if they're religious, they'll use biblical text to be like, well, a woman is supposed to just lay down for her man anytime he wants to. Otherwise, she's selfish, right? As a wife, you're supposed to just give it to him whenever, including when you're sick. If you remember that guy who had his wife had cancer, and he said he would still demand sex from her, even when she was in pain and struggling. It was still his entitled. You owe me sex, which is why people think that there's no such thing as marital rape right? You can't rape your wife. You can't rape your wife. She's you. That's why I married you, so I can have sex with you whenever I want on demand. No, no means no. If she doesn't want to have sex, she doesn't want to have sex. But a lot of these men feel like they owed or entitled to sex, right? He believes his wife is keeping something away from him. If she doesn't want to be intimate, now you're the one who's cheating on him, and you're like, what? I just didn't want to have sex with you tonight because I'm tired. But now, because again, it's projection. He's usually tired from having sex with somebody else. When you don't want to have sex, now you are the cheater. Projection. We have sex because that's a place where I can dominate and take power over you. Again, it's really important for these types of men to be in community with people who are okay with these dynamics, right? But a lot of times it's not consensual because they need the control part. But if you're a person who knows you need control sexually, well, then maybe explore some healthy ways to be in community, in BDSM communities where you can find somebody who enjoys being controlled in that way. And again, you can set your scene, you can set the different roles, you can set the boundaries, the perimeters, right? But a lot of these men, they don't care. They just want to take that control. They didn't want it to be consensual. So sex is something that they use to dominate. She becomes his sex object, right? And so an abuser who exhibits any of these sexual attitudes um, either has to distance himself from his partner's thoughts and feelings in order to avoid feeling guilty. So he might dehumanize you. Now, if he doesn't see you as a human, well, he can just use you and abuse you anyway because you're not a human to him, right? You are now an object. All you're good for is sex. So, yeah, sometimes, like I said, they might not have. He's waiting for an ideal. It talks about porn and how a lot of these men come to know about women and desire through porn and magazines. And so they had this skewed, distorted image of what a woman looks like, for instance, right? Now you have a little bit of flab and like you're too fat because the girls on porn are rail thin, right? They're all on Ozempic or whatever it is that they get their injections and all of that. And so they're looking at all of these baddies who are photoshopped. Their bodies are retouched, and like they think this is what a woman looks like. So when they see a real body, like Joe, right? Oh, you're just too fat. You're a little bit too chunky for me. Meanwhile, Madison's not even a big girl, right? But they're used to this idea of like no blemishes, no imperfections. They're always dreaming of this like they're always dreaming they're gonna find this dream girl who never comes because nobody can live up to what they have in their mind, right? Yeah. So basically, we already talked about ED, and then again, it says he may be gay. A small number of clients have eventually admitted to their partners or to me that they are primarily attracted to men. And so a lot of them will use women to come off as straight, and their women will sometimes find them with another man or realize that he spends most of his time at gay hangouts. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's a deception behind it, right? It's the inability to tell. Again, nobody's owed disclosure or coming out of the closet, quote unquote, but it is, we're talking about STIs, all these sorts of things. And so, yeah, basically it says he may use a female partner as a window dressing to give him social respectability, diverting attention from his homosexuality. This is simply another example of how abusive men, straight or gay, tend to use women for their own sexual purposes. So, um, I wrote Joe's Love is Blind. Yeah, Joe was coming up in this section, right? They use sex as a quick fix for their abusive behavior. Oh shit, I made her feel bad. Let me just give her the best sex of my life so like pretend nothing happened. He wants to reassure himself that his abuse isn't going to cause you to pull away from him emotionally or sexually. And so sometimes they use sex to divide women. I said that already, right? Oh, well, this girl's flirting with me, and then the primary girlfriend gets really jealous, and they start focusing on each other, right? Chris and Jana, I wrote ADHD Kojo. I was thinking about Dr. Kojo Suffer here, right? And some of his little series that he does, I had to stop watching those because it was giving master manipulator. But this is a thing, right? Oh yeah, this girl at work just she texted me something so inappropriate. It wasn't my fault. Ugh, it's not my fault. I'm just so irresistible, and these girls are just so immature and jealous, and I'm so sorry, right? And it's just like, and they get in your head and make you question yourself. But like, why would your coworker text you that, knowing that you have a partner, right? That conversation doesn't come up. It's just like, oh, it was just a misunderstanding. So then it's like this gaslighting thing that happens, right? They just always want to make you know that people desire them, right? It keeps you a little bit insecure, right? Keeps you always wanting to compete, wanting to look the best, because you don't want him to eventually go cheat on you with somebody else. So they do that sometimes, right? Um, it creates a wedge between the women. So yeah, this is you find them in love triangles. I was notorious, right? If you know me, always in some sort of a love triangle. That I think I had to face myself and be like, that's my own insecurity, right? As a woman, sometimes it makes us feel really superior to think that like, oh, either we want somebody else's man or somebody else's a man who's already involved in somebody's looking at us and makes us feel it's all insecure. It's pettiness. It's just really whack, right? He kind of keeps you there, but never really commits to you while he has other women and like thousand baby mamas, right? I was thinking of Bree, for instance, in Selling Sunset, right? She's like, oh, I love Nick. We've been together for a decade. Everybody tries to break us up, and it's just like, good for you, right? Like, I'm happy that you have your relationship. But then you hear rumors and stuff on this side, and nobody knows what's true, but some people are like, oh, he's down low, he's not, and right? All of this bag of mix up. But at the end of the day, he still has her. Like that's still his girl. She's very loyal to him, right? They've got a kid together and all of these. Doesn't matter who comes next and what other child shows up. I'm the main winner. And so you have a wedge between all of these women and they're all fighting for this man's attention. And so yeah, it's basically like, oh, poor me, I'm caught between two women. Right? You hear that a lot also. So he's always going to get a divorce. He's separated. He eventually will sign the papers, just not today, just not this year, just not this decade. Don't worry, I'll get a divorce, right? I choose you, but let me just handle my wife first. So these are some of their behaviors when it comes to same-sex relationships and even heterosexual men in sex become a machine. So again, this is almost 20 minutes. I'm gonna end it there basically, but yeah, communicate directly to avoid this. Communicate directly with other women he's been involved with, so you can break down any lies. It says abusive men lies a lot. Don't believe what he tells you about what's happening in his relationships with other women, including those who have supposedly said shit about you. Communicate directly with them, right? To just gain clarity, because these men lie. If a man cheats, that is 100% his own responsibility. Don't let him channel your anger towards the other woman, right? Because we'll do that sometimes. Oh, it's the other woman, but like your man's the one who cheated. We focus your attention on the man, but we don't tend to do that as women. We blame other women, and the men get off, and they continue cheating, right? Abusive men love to portray themselves as unable to control their hormonal responses. It's just natural. I'm just a man. I just have urges. I have desires, right? It's my entitlement to have as much sex as possible. Apply the principle of no third chances. When a man, especially an abusive one, cheats for the second time, that means the more affairs will follow, no matter what he promises. So it's actually strike two, not strike threes. But no, don't give him a third chance, is what this says. I'm the type of person, I feel like if I was ever to get married, I believe that marriage is where relationships go to die. And so it's going to be really hard to convince me to get married, right? There's only a few men who've ever made me think that like, wow, I would marry them. And all of them, I thought it would be low key a lavender marriage. Okay. But I feel like if I was gonna get married at this point, there would be a clause in the prenup about what happens when you cheat. Even if I get a inkling, even if it's just a rumor of cheating, you're gonna know that that's gonna cost you, right? Which is why with the Dr. Cephos Kojo Cephos post, if you as a master manipulator, because you're those types end up finding another master manipulator, right? Oh, you really got me fucked up because you signed the prenup. That's the only way I would get married, and not just even around cheating, right? Emotional labor, all of these, like it's just cut the BS from the beginning. Oh, so your coworkers just sent you that inappropriate text, and it's not your fault? Fine, fine. But you should have handled that before because you knew that when you got married, any rumor I hear is gonna cost you a trip. I'm going on vacation now. I'm gonna take 3 weeks. You're paying for my vacation, and I'll consider whether I'm gonna believe that rumor or not. That disrespectful text that your coworker sent. Give me a 3 week vacation. I'll think about it. You have to hold these men accountable because they would play in your face. I got them from Evelyn Lozada. Evelyn did that with Ocho Cinco. And I was like, that's brilliant. Yeah, you better put a clause in there about cheating. Notice how Chad didn't sign it. So these men know. I'm out. I will be out on these streets even when I'm married to you. If you don't want that, you have to set a boundary. Don't give them chances. So basically, yeah, it talks about porn. I'm gonna end it here because a lot of this I've already gone into all of these, right? They look at porn and they think that like this is what every woman is supposed to look like. There's double standards. They can get fat. Look at Blake. He can be chunky, but Emma has to be real thin, right? There's a double standard. Also, you get to get fat. You get to eat and drink, and you get to have Taco Bell, but I can't have Taco Bell. I'm gonna eat the Taco Bell because how come you get to get fat and I don't get to get fat? Double standards, right? Now you're not desirable. Joe's not completely fit himself, but like Madison's too fat, right? It's just like okay, all right, okay, homie. Um, yeah, it talks about sexual assault. I'm gonna end it here because it just goes on. Read the book because there's a lot of good information, right? Read the book. So basically, that's chapter 7. It's just same-sex relationships and sex. So, oh my gosh, we're almost done. I'm gonna try to get this done today. We're going on to chapter 8. So stay tuned for chapter 8. Until next time, in solidarity.